Well, aloha, ladies and gentlemen. Tomorrow I leave for Dallas for 5 days. All I needed was for everything to go right, and all my audio was giving me guff as we were trying to start the show. It's a busy show. I have packed nothing for tomorrow because that's the way I do things, apparently, still at age 46, not learning from previous mistakes. And
What's
and we
being
are
an
talking.
adult anyway?
I wouldn't know. I've not figured it out. So I don't know why at this point I'm even thinking that that's in the cards. At any rate, we are going to talk NXT for September the 3rd, 2024. Just a month of shopping days until my birthday, Nate. Keep that in mind.
All right, good to know.
Yeah, we got a main event that was not a match. So we got 7 matches on the docket here, but none of them were in the main event slot. So let's talk Giulia first, because Giulia done chewed that scenery at the end, and then we'll get to Trick Williams and Pete Dunne, your main event as far as matches go, but it ended up being the crossover match, so we could clear the way for Roxy and Giulia, and apparently Chelsea Green, which I thought was a pretty funny use of her because everybody knows what that segment's leading to. So to have it lead to Chelsea Green was very amusing. Chelsea is finally hitting her stride as a character over the last handful of months. I haven't ever liked her, especially in the ring, especially as she was botching her finishing move time after time. The first time she was in NXT, before her first firing, but I've made my peace with her as a character. I think she adds value in what she's doing, and she's kind of funny. So there is that. And she is a perfectly good bump machine to get throttled by Giulia a few times over the next 3 or 4 weeks before we get to the CW and Giulia gets her championship match with Roxanne Perez. I presume a championship match. I presume she will be hanging out here and working on live promos, working on a handful of things. But at any rate, Giulia is here, Nate.
Julia is here, and I like this. I think like you said, nobody was really expecting Chelsea Green. We were expecting Julia, especially after how No Mercy ended the other night. I wasn't expecting Chelsea Green, and I kind of laughed when she came out for that very reason. I think it, probably had a similar reaction for a lot of people. I think probably in a positive way. Um, be like you said, it's a kind of a good position for her to be in to kind of come in and I mean, it's not that she's not necessarily doing much right now either. So gives her something to do in a main event spot. Um, but like you said, it's also some fodder for Julia. And I think with Chelsea Green, she really is coming into her character. Like she's hilarious. I think she's like when she goes into a lot of her character work. I mean, she does. She makes me laugh. At this point. So I think there could be some interesting banter back and forth. Chelsea might be able to, um, well, like you said, bring some value here. So I'm cool with it. Um, it at the same time, does muddy the waters a little bit if you were looking forward to a one-on-one feud right now between Chelsea and not Chelsea, Roxanne and Julia. But I'm okay with it. Surprisingly, I didn't think I would be okay with them inserting somebody else kind of into the mix right now, but um, I am. I think this could be interesting, could be entertaining.
Yeah, I think it's also interesting that they did not throw an NXT talent at her. They did not throw a um, developmental talent at her. I could make jokes about how far along Chelsea Green is in her development, but I will not. I've decided not to. I just don't have time, Nate. But they are going with somebody from the main roster who has been in some big spots, including that ladder match um, on pay per view. So they are giving her somebody who has visited the main roster right away. So if they decide to fast track her, and they might, then that could happen. But they could have fast tracked Asuka, but she was the champion for like 560 some days or whatever it was. So they slow tracked Asuka
But
because they,
the difference is completely different regimes now. We would never
yeah,
see this TNA stuff, if
that's,
Vince was still here.
oh yeah,
So who knows? Who knows? Anything,
that is true.
as they used to say, anything can now happen in WWE. You never
Yeah,
know.
they haven't said that for a while, have they?
No, they didn't. They haven't.
No, I get my fill of that from Expect the Unexpected in Big Brother. That is the closest I've got in my regular viewing of stuff. Yes, I watch Big Brother, Nate. You don't have to
That's good.
judge me for it.
I mean, you just read my mind. It's fine.
Okay. Trick Williams versus Pete Dunne. This was your crossover match. Uh, double count out, 11:21. They got a "you suck" ref chant, but I mean, he was only doing his job. Count to 10. It's one of the only things that is his job. But they lengthened this. They will be taking this to a last man standing match. So they didn't give the audience too long to be annoyed because most of the same folks are going to be in the arena next week. And the winner will move on to face our champion, Ethan Page. By the way, conspicuous by his absence, of course, was Joe Hendry. So he was on social media talking about how he was asking people to keep believing and saying his name and all the stuff that he does. But he was not on this show and wasn't even really mentioned. We saw stills of him getting beat, but he wasn't mentioned. So if we're supposed to think that he's going to be hanging around, they did a good job of suggesting that he won't be hanging around. So anyway, Trick and Pete had a nice little violent match at the crossover moment and went double count out. It got very silly how many times they had to be pulled apart by refs and how many pull apart brawls there were in the first hour period. But at any rate, they will get to their match, and the winner will move on to a championship match. I don't know that the Pete Dunne Ethan Page thing makes any sense. So it sure seems like this is one of those situations where Trick lost a championship because, yes, it could benefit Ethan Page, but even more than that, it could benefit a big spot down the road, which is that CW show that they are trying to load up to make sure people show up for the move to a new channel, Nate.
Yes, that's actually a good point. I hadn't really thought about it like that, but you know what? You're probably right. Sorry, Trick Williams, Pete. Oh, before I go there, you said Joe Hendry kind of absent, right? And I just had this thought earlier. Beetlejuice. There was an ad for Beetlejuice, and they were like, say his name and he'll appear. And I was so hoping something, but no. I mean, it would be hard to probably get that collaboration with Beetlejuice, but man, that would have been sweet.
Yeah, I
This
have
is what
no
goes on
doubt
in my head.
I have no doubt that Michael Keaton does not know who Joe Hendry is.
He probably has no idea.
It would surprise me if he knew. Anything's possible. I do. I am an actor, though I haven't done any big profile stuff lately, and I know a lot of actors who do love pro wrestling, despite the acting that we have to watch on it sometimes. But yeah, I think I'd be surprised if Michael Keaton knew Joe Hendry.
Yep, you're probably right. Probably right. But man, I was hoping that would have been really cool. I believed. Let's put it that way. So Trick Williams, Pete Dunne. I thought this was a really good match. I was in a way, a little disappointed in the double countout, but it's going to prolong this feud, and we're going to get to see these guys again. So I'm fine with that. This match told a really good story. I thought. Both men kind of just trying to rip each other apart after what, a good month and a half. I don't know. It seems like at least a month or so of them feuding back and forth and kind of taking shots at one another and attacking one another and things like that. So I dug this. I thought this was pretty cool. The double count out, like I said, it didn't really. I don't know, in the moment, I was kind of like, "Ah, come on," but like you said, the more I thought about it, even just a few seconds afterwards, I was kind of like, "All right, we're gonna get to see these guys again." It kind of prolongs this feud for a little bit, um, but I think, like you said, this also does kind of foreshadow Trick Williams and Ethan Page again, because unless they're going, I mean, I can't really imagine them doing Pete Dunne versus Ethan Page. It would be a fun heel match, but I don't know if they'd go that way, if they'd go heel like that, especially with the two of them. Well, they're not similar heels at all, actually, but that's what I was going to say. That like I just kind of caught myself. I was about to say it. Um, but with them both, being heels, I don't really see them going that direction. So Trick Williams and Ethan Page, like you said, probably maybe at the CW show.
All right. For those of you who have caught that I've been swaying side to side on the video, I am rubbing a very needy cat right now. That is why this is happening, because she is making noise when I don't. So there you go. That is the extra stuff you get when you are watching the
Hey,
on the video. That is Admiral Soup Shoes, who does not like to be lifted up very often, but she just played along real nice there.
what's your other cat's
Because
name?
the one behind me is Corporal Fuzzington. Oh, she's
That's
like
yeah.
right behind me.
All right,
Yeah, there she is.
Corporal Fuzzington. I didn't
There's
know about
another one.
Admiral Soup Shoes. I like that. I dig that.
Yep. She's our baby. Only had her for a few months. And then there's Samushu, who is not very social. You have to wait for her to come to you. She does. But anyway, now you all know my cats. Okay. That was that match. Azan White in the chat did say Chelsea Green's the jobber like Al Snow, but at least she's a decent person. Yes, she is. She was the one who stood up when what's her name? The Horseman's kid.
Oh, oh,
Um,
Blanchard.
oh my gosh.
Tessa
Tessa
Blanchard.
Blanchard. That is not a name that I ever forget, but here I am
I wasn't
on
thinking
the
about her,
show.
so yeah.
Yeah. So Tessa is trying to, give a vague, um, trying to do a vague redemption story, but all those people she affected and all those people she bullied backstage, nobody has gotten an apology, and Chelsea Green, right in front of the world to see, called her out for not giving that apology, and that takes a lot of guts, especially in a business like wrestling. Even though Chelsea is in the WWE and Tessa is not, and Tessa's wrestling in front of really small crowds because she cannot get booked, because people know that she is not real easy to work with. But yeah, I thought that it took a lot of courage for Chelsea to do something like that, even despite her position. I think that that's a tough thing to do, and to stand up for all of the little people that were affected. Um, this is another reason why I've decided not to take swings at Chelsea Green anymore, which I have done a lot of. But what can I say? She won me over. That was a big thing to do. Okay. Opener was Rascals versus Hank and Tank versus Gallus. This was 10:56. It was very, I was going to say messy, but it wasn't messy. Like, nothing was botched, nothing went wrong. It was just a messy affair. If wrestling was real, you would call this messy, because everybody got involved all the time. Very frenetic, spot to spot mostly. They did a small face in peril thing with Hank, but they did it during the commercial break, so it wasn't that impactful for those of us who know that we can just tune out during those picture-in-picture breaks, as they call them, which are not picture-in-pictures. But Anyway, Rascals predictably win this as their TV story continues. Later on, they had a short dual interview with Axiom and Nathan Fraser that was kind of funny because Axiom, I don't know if Axiom's got a new accessory on that mask, but I could not hear anything he was saying. I heard everything from Nathan Fraser, and then Axiom was talking like he was basically a Peanuts character adult because we couldn't hear anything he was saying. So there you go,
There was actually a
Axiom.
couple times I noticed audio problems. Well, I wouldn't say problems, but there was a like Pete Dunne gets interviewed backstage, and he was really quiet compared to like everybody else. So and I think there was one other that I can't remember, but there's a couple things I noticed like that audio wise tonight.
Yeah, it was this was the standout here with Axiom. But at any rate, we get Rascals versus Axiom and Nathan Fraser. So if you like your tag teams with great classic wrestling, isolating a teammate, and hot tags and things like that, then you will probably not like this match next week because this is almost guaranteed to be a major spot fest. I can't even imagine who would play face in peril or if either team will play heel. I don't know what Axiom and Nathan Fraser are supposed to be. They're great, but I don't know what they're supposed to be. So Gallus, you know what? We're going to roll in Javon Evans versus Joe Coffey. Joe Coffey used to lose 40-minute matches in the main event of NXT UK pay-per-views. Now he's losing 2 minutes and 33 seconds to guys who cannot legally drink. So Javon Evans over Joe Coffey in 2 minutes and 33 seconds. And Gallus did the beatdown on Javon Evans, but Cedric Alexander made the save. So I guess we're doing something there. Cedric is a more technical and less bouncy version of Javon Evans. And you know, he's aging. Even if he had previously done the things Javon Evans could do, he would not be able to do them now because he's too deep into his career. But I hope this does something for Cedric because I have adored him from day one of the CWC. So on all the things that Gallus did, which were losing, Nate.
Yes, on the losing Gallus stuff. So I guess I'll start Javon Evans, Joe Coffey. Not a whole lot to really talk about there. Like you said, Joe Coffey, well, from the main event in the UK down to I don't know, staring at the lights in 2 minutes and 33 seconds here. I do like the potential pairing of Javon Evans and Cedric Alexander, though. Like you said, I'm also a fan of Cedric Alexander, straight from the Cruiserweight Classic as well. Through his time through 205 Live and the few times he showed up on NXT and he's had main roster pushes and things. Like I really want to see this guy take off, and it's always start and stop. So this would be really cool if this is something that can either jumpstart Cedric or heck, maybe it's. I mean, obviously, it's probably more of a launching pad or designed to be more of a launching pad for Javon Evans, but if it works to get Cedric some more TV time, I'm all for it. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Like you said, Cedric Alexander, somebody that you always think of, or at least I always think of, as high flying and everything like that. So the pairing with him and Javon Evans, I think, certainly works. The opening. Oh, now my Corbin's over there dreaming and yipping and yapping and all that. So I didn't know what the heck that was for a second. Our opening match, Rascals versus Hank and Tank and versus Gallus. Again, I mean, it was fine. I mean, like you said, frenetic and energetic. I thought it was fun to watch, but certainly I don't think I could tell you who the legal man was or legal men were from minute to minute. Which
I
whatever.
recapped the match and
Yes, you did.
even recapping it at times, I was like, I guess they might have made a tag. That does happen in some of these.
Yeah. Oh, every once in a while. Every once in a while. Um, but but yeah, the match that we're leading up to, the Rascals versus Axiom and Frazier, we're going to see more of the same. In terms of style of wrestling, I'm kind of looking forward to it. It's funny because Wesley and at the time Nash Carter, now Zachary Wentz, I wasn't a big fan of MSK, but for some reason now, I don't know, maybe it's just the whole story or something to do with the Rascal. I don't know. I'm really excited to see Zach and Trey next week challenge for the NXT titles for a couple different reasons. A, I think it'd really be cool to see somebody from outside the company hold an NXT title or WWE title in general. I was really hoping it was going to be my man here, Joe Hendry, capturing NXT Championship gold, but that didn't happen. So it'd be kind of cool to see, Zachary Wentz, go from a I'm going to say disgraced wrestler because he did not have a graceful exit from the company, to coming back and having a bit of a reclamation story and winning gold and potentially being a TNA X Division champion as well as a tag team champion here in NXT. That'd be cool, and he'd also he'd go down as the first person in history. Well, he and Trey would be the first people in history to kind of hold gold from another company within WWE, at least to my knowledge. In modern WWE, maybe it happened way back in the day, but I can't think of any time where it's happened. Yeah, so I think. And Hank and Tank, like Hank and Tank, obviously they were here to just kind of take the loss. And get some additional TV time, but I don't know. I like these guys. They're a fun comedic duo. Can't really see much more of a ceiling for them, at least right now. But give me more Hank and Tank.
You can email us at pwtorchnxt@gmail.com. This comes from Kevin Catani. Salutations, gents. I hope this email finds you well. I want to start this email by assuring Nate that I still believe in Joe Hendry, and I know he'll get another shot in short order. That said, I'm so excited to watch Giulia work Roxanne up one side of the ring and down the other. Do you think they will let her maintain her strong style approach, or will they dilute her moveset and presentation? I sure hope not. Lastly, now that we are squarely in the midst of the TNA and NXT relationship, how would you all rate the arrangement thus far? I perceive it to be one of mutual benefit, but am I missing something? Thanks as always. Go VIP and listen to 8YB. Office hours are now over. The professor, Kevin P. Catani, PhD. Yeah, I don't think that they are going to dilute Giulia's strong style approach, and that is because of who's in control now. They will do strong style matches in a way that they did not used to. Even last year with the last year at Mania, the triple threat between Gunther, Sheamus, and Drew, that was a strong style match. And matches like that were not happening very often on NXT on WWE for a very long time. So, and we've seen hints of strong style, people who are clearly influenced by strong style in long forearm exchanges, tests of strength, asking for the other person to hit you a little bit in this company, which is not something they've normally done. But that's a big thing in New Japan. Like, hey, I'm going to take your best shot and absorb it, and I'm going to kill your confidence by essentially just absorbing it. That's a big thing in New Japan. I don't know how much of it she'll be able to keep, or will be allowed to keep, or will want to keep. That's a big question, but I think that allowing her to keep as much of it as she can is a good thing. The hard thing is that most of the people she will face are not going to be people who cut their teeth on strong style. And as a result, they can't meet her where she is unless they really are briefed on how strong style works beforehand, or if they really know how strong style works. Some of them are going to catch on to it right away. Some will be able to just do it. Asuka essentially works strong style. Io's not, she doesn't do it so much, but she can. She does the strong style stuff, but she is more of a flyer. but I don't think she would have trouble meeting her where she is. And I think there are other wrestlers who just have high wrestling IQs. Bailey comes to mind, Dakota comes to mind, who just will be able to do that kind of thing if they're allowed to. So that will be interesting for me to see too. As far as the TNA NXT relationship, I think this is it's already one of the longest lasting mutually beneficial situations they've had. WWE did a thing with Smoky Mountain Wrestling years ago that probably lasted shorter than this. They did something with what was the one that Lawler and Jarrett were from? Memphis, whatever the Memphis one was.
Yeah, whatever Memphis is.
But
USWA.
Sorry, Memphis. Yes, USWA. They did a thing, and where Brett was a heel in USWA, but a babyface in WWE. And so, but I think that this seems like the most mutually beneficial, and it seems like the most likely to get people to watch that other show. I have not started solely because I don't know where to work in the time to watch another show. But if this had happened back when I was a kid and only watching WWE and only as many hours as it was, I think I would have. Whereas USWA, I was just, I don't know. It was just the one storyline and it wasn't a big deal. And with Smoky Mountain, mostly it was about, what was the tag team's name? The Heavenly Bodies. And they were fine, but I don't know if that's appointment television. Anyway, on Katani's email, Nate, go ahead.
So I'm with you on Giulia. I think under Triple H and Shawn Michaels, I think they're more about letting the wrestlers be artists and than conforming to a particular style. And obviously I don't know that, but that's just kind of my vibe and what we've seen from the past year or so. Triple H has been in charge of creative. So I think, maybe they may rein her in a little bit for sponsors' sake or something like that. But for the most part, I don't think we're going to see much of a change in her style. I think I think I kind of agree with what Kelly said. And as far as the TNA NXT relationship goes, again, I agree with Kelly. This feels beneficial on both sides. We're getting some cool storylines on NXT that we would not get to see otherwise, like Jordan Grace coming in, again here. The whole thing with the Rascals, Joe Hendry, and all this stuff. All this stuff has been fun and entertaining, and I'm sure they would have obviously filled that time with something NXT related. But this is something that gets people talking. It creates a bit of a buzz, not just for NXT, but for all, for TNA as well. I also have not tuned into TNA yet, for very similar reasons. I at least 4 or 5 nights a week I'm doing something, so it's kind of hard to fit in some more time to watch wrestling. But again, I know if I was a kid and I was like, oh, there's another wrestling show and now my favorite people might show up there, I'm checking that out. So I definitely think it's mutually beneficial. I would love to know, and we may not for years, to come, but I would love to know how long this relationship is, if it's something that's ongoing, if they just were like, all right, let's work together for 6 months or what, because I said this, in the VIP after show for No Mercy. I expected this kind of partnership to just kind of be like a one and done type of thing. Like, we saw Jordan Grace come in, and I kind of expected maybe that to be it, maybe one or two others, but here we are, like a few months later, and there's really no end in sight. I like that. This is a pretty cool time to be a wrestling fan.
And even Jordan is back. Azan in the chat said, "Don't disrespect good Dr. Tom." He is talking about Dr. Tom Pritchard, the brother of Bruce Pritchard, who was one of the members of the Heavenly Bodies. And then, actually, after the Heavenly Bodies thing ended, he became the partner of Chris Candido, who was called Skip, Body Donna Skip, and Pritchard was body Donna Zip. So he hung around. He did his tag team reps, and I'm not disrespecting him. I actually liked the Heavenly Bodies kind of a lot, like way better than anybody did in my friend group. I like Gigolo Jimmy Del Rey even better. May he rest in peace. He died about 10 years ago. A heart attack, I think. So yeah, I no disrespect to the Heavenly Bodies, but as far as I've got to watch that company, they did not present a guy who was like, I got to watch that company. Basically, I was happy to just watch those Heavenly Bodies matches. So that was his email. Why don't I do the other email and see what that does as far as cleanup? Oh, this is Zans also. Dear NXT crew, Meltzer thinks that Nathan Frazier and Axiom are up for the tag team of the year. What do you think about this assessment of the team? That is high praise. I would say they're in way too many spot fests. I know that Meltzer likes those. So I guess I'm not surprised that Meltzer thinks this, but man, that is lofty. They would not have been on my radar for number one. I guess I would have put them on the list somewhere, but in terms of like tag team wrestling, the way it was meant to be, and I'm not like a throwback guy in so many ways, but in tag team wrestling, I think we've lost so much of what made it great. And I think that Axiom and Nathan Fraser are a lot of what makes it tiresome at times. They would be the perfect underdog babyface team in a classic tag team wrestling match, but that's not what they're asked to do. Number two, after 2 weeks, I'm not impressed by Rosemary in NXT. If this was Rosemary from 5 to 7 years ago in NXT, I feel like she would be better to be featured on a major stage like NXT. I will only say this. She was 1,000 times better tonight.
Yeah,
Whatever
much.
was messing with her, jitters, ring being bigger, whatever it is, she figured out so much of it tonight. It wasn't like she wasn't a dynamo, but she's 40. She's not meant to be a dynamo anymore. But she was so much better than that match. I was not looking forward to seeing her, but I was so glad for her that she made up for a first outing that was not good. Number three, I'm excited to see what's going on with Javon Evans and Charlie. I felt the show was a great reset for Javon after last week, disappointing for him booking wise. I thought it was fine to get him to where he needed to be. But yeah, it's nice to see him in the mix. He was brought in guns a-blazing, and he was not going to be able to be kept there, especially with who they had waiting in the wings, what they had waiting in the wings, storyline wise. But I think it was valuable to have him experience that scene because he does have the talent to get back to that level again. I will be very interested to see what Javon does in the confines of a Heritage Cup match because his offense skill set is all about striking really quickly and hitting you out of nowhere. So he's kind of made for the Heritage Cup. But they did also tease that Joe Coffey was going to get a match, so he's probably not winning. Javon Evans isn't, but I did love this segment with Ren Sinclair, giving him the match because she wanted him to think she was cool, which is kind of Ren Sinclair's whole thing. She just really wants everyone to accept her, which is kind of it's a bit high concept for wrestling for her to be just wanting to be accepted in every situation. But I really like everything she's doing right now. I just love it. So Nate, on all of Azan's email.
Sure. So Axiom and Frazier for tag team of the year. I mean, I guess like I could see them in the conversation for sure. I and I've said this quite a few times on the show, I haven't felt like their at least initial tag team run or tag team championship run, like it just didn't grasp me. It didn't grab me for some reason. And I think it probably had something to do with the fact we're not really. I mean, we know they're presented as baby faces, but sometimes they're really doing some heelish things. They're feuding with one another. Are not really feuding, but they're fighting with one another about like WWE speed and being on the same page and everything. So I don't know if I'd peg them as the definitive like front runner for tag team of the year, but they're I mean they're certainly a great tag team, and I think should maybe be in the conversation. So why not? Um, Rosemary, I'm gonna just say I echo your sentiments pretty much exactly. I feel like she was much better in the ring this week. Just something really did seem to throw her off. I don't know if it was a chemistry thing or what, like you said, but yeah, tonight she seemed to be a lot better in the ring. I actually liked it. I liked the match personally. So there we go. And also, Javon and Charlie. I think this is going to be kind of interesting, kind of fun. I don't think Javon Evans is going to win the Heritage Cup. As much as I would like to see that, because I think, like Kelly said, I think this is what Kelly said, but Javon kind of feels like he's more in line of what the Heritage Cup was designed for, the type of wrestler was designed for and made for. Well, actually, I guess obviously Charlie Dempsey and everything, they are too. I guess I was still thinking in my head of Tony D'Angelo for a second. Um, but um, but yeah, so that should still be a fun match, but with Coffee and the Wings, probably not going to win it. It will lead to Charlie and Coffee.
Okay, we got 3 other matches on this show. All in the 4-minute range, so nothing crazy here, but definitely different. Oro Mensah versus Lexis King. This one was kind of a feud. Lexis King wins with his legs on the rope because being a throwback heel and cheating and being genuinely unlikable is what he's about. And he beat Oro Mensah in 4:48. Oba Femi beat Channing Stacks Lorenzo in 4 minutes and 31 seconds after a segment where it's like, oh, Shawn Michaels is trying so hard to get Oba Femi heel heat. Everyone wants to cheer him, and he gets booed, and he gets cheered all the time. They book him on the heel side of things. They have him do and say heelish things, especially this week, saying women should be seen and not heard, to a group that you knew was not going to accept that. And I thought it was fun for Adriana to show the response to that. But it's a losing proposition. He's too cool to be heel. You got to put him on the main roster probably, and have him work towards heeldom to even ever get him there, which is weird to say that somebody's too cool to be a heel, but I genuinely think that's the situation. And then we got Jada Parker versus Jasmine Nix, which was your last match, but not necessarily the main event because Giulia's appearance was the main event. Jada beats Jasmine in 4:39. I think Jasmine had a couple of spacing issues, but otherwise looks pretty crisp, pretty clean as far as her offense goes. And Jada continues to be a star in the making, so I'm glad that she hasn't been totally de-emphasized here. She showed up right away at the beginning of the show to just walk through the back and then be annoyed by Fatal Influence. And of course, Fatal Influence attacked her after the match. So I think she's got some TV stuff set up, even though she's not going to be in that championship scene anytime soon. So on those 3 singles matches, if you have a lot or a little, Nate, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, not a whole heck of a lot, really. I mean, Jada Parker, Jasmine Nix, since we're there. I'm really impressed with both of them. Jada Parker, obviously, I think they have high hopes for her right now to be kind of a breakout star, a new singles women's star in NXT. So and I think she's doing a good job kind of fitting into that mold right now. We saw obviously at No Mercy she challenges for the NXT championship, women's championship. Um, eh, on the pre-show, they also, and I can't remember the woman's name on the pre-show that works it with Sam Roberts, but she was mentioning how she's no longer with OTM, so they've kind of like completely distanced her from OTM, which is probably for the better if they want to get her over as a single. Um, but yeah, Jasmine Nix, this whole group with Fallon Henley, JC Jane, Fatal. I keep wanting to say Fatal Attraction, Fatal Influence. Um, I hate the name. I'm not a big fan of the name, but I like the group. I think the group works. They kind of have a mission statement, for why they're together. So it's not like they just seem thrown together or whatever. So I think it's working. Um, Interested to see, what like if maybe Jasmine Nix and Jada Parker wind up, or not Jasmine Nix and Jada Parker. Sorry, who Jada Parker is going to wind up tagging with to take on Jasmine Nix and the rest of Fatal Influence here, because I don't think she's going to be doing it on her own. Let's see who else. Obafemi Channing and Stacks. Um, yeah, fun. This was a fun match, mostly just to watch Obafemi kind of destroy. I wouldn't say quite destroy Stacks, but kind of destroy Stacks. Um, I really like watching Stacks in the ring. He's always somebody that I forget can work as well as he can work. And it's been like that for as long as he's been around in NXT. Like, he goes, he kind of steps in the ring and he goes, and you're like, oh yeah, right. He has it, but for some reason, like I don't know, he doesn't always stick in my brain. Um, but yeah, Obafemi, he can hold this title as long as he wants, as far as I'm concerned. I think I say that every week. Um, so yeah, so we can continue seeing moments like this. And then we had one more. Oh, Oro Mensa versus Lexus King. I I liked certain parts of this match, especially the part where King like actually screams at Mensa, "Your father should have burned to ashes," and I mean the crowd had an audible gasp. It's things like that where you start blurring the lines between reality and the story, where things really get interesting, especially in today's day and age where kayfabe is dead. You kind of get a kayfabe 2.0, if you will, where you blur those lines, and you're not really sure maybe sometimes what's real, what's not. Um, but yeah, I dig it. I dig it. As much as
Yeah, this
I,
match is like the Christian Cage special where they're both
yeah,
going after each other's fathers. Yeah.
yes, exactly. But yeah, I think that's all I got.
All right, we go backstage. No Quarter Catch Club crew. I do that every week. With Gallus and Ren. Oh yeah, we kind of talked about that. Okay, so we kind of surfed over Tatum Paxley versus Rosemary because we were talking about Rosemary. What we didn't get to was the Wendy Chu beatdown afterwards, and then the save by Lyra Valkyria.
Oh yeah,
So Lyra got quite the initial push on the main roster, going to the main event of the to the finals of the Queen of the Ring tournament, where she lost to Nia Jax, and then she was kind of taken off TV relatively quickly after, and they didn't have anything for her right away, which I thought was kind of a shame. But I dare say this was kind of a nice and definitely a weird little moment where she made up with Tatum Paxley, who is now on the babyface side of things. And she said, I'm gonna be with you. I want to fight alongside you and do this. So yes, very a true surprise for me to see Lyra Valkyria, who was on this show not 3 months ago, 4 months ago, whatever it was, but a real surprise to see her tonight. Ridge Holland had a pre-taped dismissive on a missive on Chase U. He wants to take them down piece by piece. So I guess there's that. I thought that this was pretty good. I don't know what you can get out of Ridge, but I think that they are finding something here. Brooks Jensen and Sean Spears and Dion Lennox. The word, folks, is gaslighting. This episode is brought to you by the word gaslighting. Brinley Reese and Carmen Petrovic were talking. Ashante the Adonis made his entrance, and I only wrote down Adonis, so I almost accidentally said Adrian Adonis, which would have really dated me. But Nate, I didn't do it, so we're fine. And Eddie Thorpe makes the save for the women and says, "Don't trust this playa." So yeah, Eddie Thorpe and Ashante the Adonis apparently are gonna have a thing. Maybe Eddie can finally win a feud. Oh
Nice.
boy. So backstage shenanigans, Nate.
Backstage shenanigans and Lyra Valkyria. So I'm going to start with Lyra because why not? Yeah, because before Lyra left, she was, kind of doing a thing with Tatum Paxley. Tatum was kind of like stalking her a little bit, and Lyra kept telling her to leave her alone and yada yada. So I don't know, why did Lyra decide to come back and all of a sudden just help her out of the blue months later? Like, we got a little bit of an explanation, and they hugged backstage and all of that, but I don't know. It seems a little, obviously she needed something to do, and why not send her down to NXT? But I wish they'd kind of give us a bit more of something, um, to kind of, I don't know, maybe rationalize why she's now all of a sudden helping out Tatum Paxley, even though she never really hated Tatum. She was more of kind of annoyed by her, but now they're hugging like besties. It's I don't know, a little weird, but whatever. We'll see. I'll give it a chance. Um, the Ridge Holland thing. I gotta say, this is probably the first time that well, maybe second time, because I think I've said that before. I think this is the second time that I'm actually intrigued by something Ridge Holland is doing. The first being him winning the titles with Chase U. I liked that redemption story, but it kind of fell flat for me, I think, within a week. But this vignette was really interesting. I mean, obviously it's a pre-tape, so they were able to edit it and multiple takes and make him come across the way they wanted him to come across. It's going to be different. It may be interesting to see what this is like when he's live. But I liked the conviction he spoke with, the tone of voice. He basically comes across like he wants to destroy Chase U from the inside out, like he said. Piece by piece, I think is actually what he said. So I dig this. And then we obviously saw Duke Hudson put out a tweet, which they brought up on screen, saying that he's going to get retribution for essentially revenge, for Thea, for Chase, and Chase is still in the hospital and things like that. So interesting, definitely interesting. We'll see if this is the end of Chase University or not. I don't think so, but there we go. Sean Spears and Jensen. Not much really to say there other than don't gaslight people. That's not cool. And then Eddie Thorpe, Ashante the Adonis. I think it'll be a fun feud for something for both of them to do. Hopefully this gives Eddie Thorpe a win and maybe propels him to something other than losing. I think this guy has all the makings of being a star, but they haven't been really pushing him that much since he got injured. So maybe it's just, they're waiting for the right moment for him, and they didn't have any, the right spot for him when he came back. But yeah, I want to see more out of Eddie Thorpe. Like I thought in his underground match, I think that was the match he got injured in, if I'm not mistaken. But in that underground match he had, months ago at this point, I really liked it. Really liked what we saw. Just kind of um, the energy that he brings. So yeah, I'd like to see Eddie Thorpe kind of not lose so much and win and be in a better spot.
Yeah, and I've seen a lot of him because he was in New Japan as a young lion. So seen a lot of his matches. I know what he can do in a long form match, and they've still rarely, if ever, allowed him to show it. There is somebody who has not been able to show off what he can do in a strong style setting, even though he can do that because that's how he was trained by Katsuyori Shibata. So that, I believe, is our show. I'm Kelly Wells. You can find me on social media at Spooky Milk. Nate, who are you?
Last I checked, Nate Lindberg. You can check me out at at natelindberg.com or Nate Lindberg on X, Twitter, whatever we're calling it now.
You seem very unsure of yourself on where to be found, but I assure you, you can be found there. So there you go.
Okay, I'll believe you if you say so.
All right, folks. A busy show, so let's see what comes together next week. We'll see you in 7.